got Itchy and Bella behind, killing it with the tech. Thank you so much. It's what's needed. So welcome to SpeakuP Monday for those of you who are just joining us for the first time. So every Monday, SpeakuP Monday, we do this, right? And it's about creating a positive dent in the universe every Monday. For those of you who don't know, Monday is the most popular day for people to commit suicide. I'm not sure if you realize that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a day, right? It's a day. So what we thought is that we'll change the script, we'll mix it up, and say, you know what? Let's ensure that we create a dent, a positive dent in the universe, right? Every Monday, where we have a beautiful guest like today is Philip. He's a handsome guy as well as being an incredible human being. And what we do is that through the Q&A process, which is natural, there's nothing scripted here, we're able to release, some incredible insights in a way that we all can take these guys away with us and maybe use them and get some immediate results. Or for some of us, it will be a case of, it's a reminder, right? A reminder of something that we've forgotten. Because ultimately, we're born with everything we need, right? It's just that we've forgotten, and we let conditioning and all this other stuff come on top of us. Ah! So what we're doing is we're releasing, right? We're letting some of that stuff go. So SpeakuP Monday was number 64 or 65, and it's every week. It started off at Life in Bali with a beautiful friend called Morten, a Norwegian guy, a good friend of mine, a good speaker. And look, we've been going all this time. We've had lots of different people on the show, from very famous people like the co-founder of Gojek, Matilda Dwi Lestari, the first Indonesian woman to climb the 7 highest mountains on the planet, including Everest, with her climbing partner Didi. So that's both of Matilda and Didi. And lots of other people, from captains of business like Chris Robb. He was like, he sold his first company to Ironman, right? Became known as Ironman, his first company. And worked with Singapore Olympics, marathon, as a race director for many, many years. And lots of other different people, local, foreign, international, national, you name it. But it's not about the fame, it's not about the fortune. It's about understanding that as human beings, we all have something to contribute to one another. Because people inspire people. So people inspire people. Last time, people inspire people. So today I have a beautiful guy on the show. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Robbie.
So here at Tropical Nomad, I met Philip last week, right? And I was just finishing filming one of these, and we just met and we got talking, and I thought, you know what, this guy's got a great energy, he's got a great vibe, there's a beautiful nature to him. I thought, you know what, this guy should be on SpeakuP Monday. Next thing you know, we're doing it. A week later, we're here. It's so good. So we're going to get to know Philip tonight. All right, Philip Hofstetter. Is an incredible guy, has an amazing contribution to offer to us, the planet, and everyone else, every human being living on the planet. So I can't wait to get involved and get stuck in, right? Now, before we start, if any of you watching this have got a little, what we call like a tug from the universe, right? It's like a little tap on your shoulder, someone saying, you know what? I would love to do one of those SpeakuP Mondays. I'm feeling a pull, I'm feeling a draw to do it, right? So if that's you, and you're feeling drawn to do it, please don't let fear hold you back. Reach out, just send me a message, either privately, publicly, post, private message, however you do it, and say, Rob, you know what? I want to do a SpeakuP Monday. And if it's not you and you want to volunteer somebody else, you can, right? But so many people are people that I didn't even know, right? And they were volunteered by other people. But there's something about when I pick up the phone or send a message, people listen, they go, you know what? Sure, I'll do that. And they do it. And we always get amazing insights from it, right? So if that's you and you're sitting on the fence and you're wondering, you know what, like, I would love to do one of those, or I know someone who would love to do one of those, please do it, right? It's a really powerful thing to do, all right? Great. So we're going to get started very, very soon. So how we're going to remember, this is not scripted. If you've got any questions, feel free to send those questions in. Now we've got Instagram going as well, so we've got the feeds, live feeds to YouTube, to Facebook, to Instagram. So look, Facebook is probably the easiest platform for us to monitor. But however, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the comments. And maybe towards the half-hour mark is a good time to do it. We go for about an hour or so. So feel free to send in those questions, and let's see if we can get to them. Now, let's all take a breath. There we go. Settle in. Okay. So now I'm gonna let our guest introduce himself, right? I don't even know him, right? This is the beauty of it, right? We're going to get to know each other tonight, and that's what I love about this whole thing. So it's not like we have to know each other to begin with. All I know is there's a beautiful energy there, and I'm interested to go deeper into it. So let's see where that takes us. All right. I think the last thing I'll do, because I think it's relevant, is that every week before I do anything, whether I'm coaching people or whether I'm going into a seminar to do a speech or conducting a workshop, one thing which I love to do is that I'll go out into nature, maybe on the grass if I can. If I haven't got nature around me, then I go to wherever I am. Take 3 deep, full body breaths, like let it out, right? 3 of those, and your energy drops from your head all the way into your body towards your heart, right? And then from that place, it's not a religious thing, but I always say something like, please God, please help me to be of best value to the room, or please help me to deliver the best value to the room, or please help me to deliver the best value to whoever's listening, whoever's going to see this. And what this does is it allows me to get out of my own way. It allows me to move away and be a vessel, a vehicle for everything else to come through. And that's where these questions come from, right? So I just want to pass it on to you maybe as a way that maybe you're a speaker, maybe you get a bit nervy before you do stuff. If you do that process, it gets you out of the way and allows your connected intelligence to everything that is to come through, and you've got nothing to worry about because everything else that happens as it's supposed to. All right? So, shake that off. Let's get into it. So look, Philip. So your name, Philip Hofstetter, where does the name come from and where do you come from?
It's very Swiss, right? The name, yeah. So I'm Swiss, yeah. I'm born in Switzerland. Dad is Swiss. Mom is originally East African, Indian.
Wow.
Born in East Africa, raised in the UK, in London. So yeah, my name is very Swiss though. But I guess my tan lines are even stronger for cycling. I'll get to that in a bit. I guess you can see. It's a bit of a mix there, yeah. So Indian, English, Swiss, yeah.
Wow, Indian, English, and Swiss.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. That's where I'm from. What was the next question?
Tell us a little bit about you. Like, what makes you what makes you tick?
What makes you tick?
What makes you tick? Like, what drives you? What incites you? Where's your passion? Where does it come from?
Yeah, where does it come from? That's I guess something that is a bit more complex. I guess where it comes from is yet unfolding. It's what I'm finding answers to every day. What drives me is stuff like that, like conversations, like as you just said, I had a conversation the day before we met with Sasha, who told me about you, that you wrote this book, and she knew about you, she heard about you. And then next thing, is I'm sitting over there, doing some emails in Tropical Nomad here in Canggu, and I see you recording a video, and I come over and talk to you, and now we're doing this, right? It's just like connections, conversations, because stuff just always gets created out of nothing by. You making the first step, you striking up a conversation, you're learning something, that inspires a thought. So that one conversation I had with Sasha inspired me to be a bit more attentive. Like, otherwise I would have maybe just continued with my day-to-day work and thought, well, yeah, it's a guy recording selfie, sort of like video, interesting. But because I had this background story, I was like, curious, yeah. And got me over. So yeah, conversations, learning, meeting people, inspiration, sharing inspiration, getting inspired, and getting inspiration through dialogue, through books. It could be people, stories, and then cycling.
Got it. And then for you, so you're saying that you're born in Switzerland. So where is home for you? And like, why do you call it home?
That's a big question. Like, home has been very transient over the last 10 years or so, like moving around a lot. Like, London had the prominent place because that's where I started my business, built my business, grown my business, and has been, very important. I met a lot of interesting, important people that shaped my path in that place. So that's definitely a home, and it's a home because it's Mom's home as well. We have a lot of family there, and home is where family is to some extent. So it's definitely Switzerland, like to some extent. But I never felt like a really good cultural fit, growing up there, and maybe it was because I felt different, because I was made to feel different, even though I know, I'm responsible for the way I felt. But yeah, so home is usually that's a big one. Like I don't really know. Like it's ever evolving. It's ever evolving. And right now, this is home. Like this has become home through a coincidence. Like I mean, it was initially intended to be here for 4 days, and now I'm still here 4 months later. And you build a home, a community. You meet people. You connect, and then it becomes gradually a home. But I'm not attached to a place as such, or people. I think even if you have a strong connection with family, friends, if that connection is strong enough, you can move around and stay connected. So yeah, I'm not being very to the point, right? Like answer these questions,
but it's good because again, I get out of the way, and what comes through is there's always value there. I don't know who's watching. I don't know who's listening in, but I always know that there's value. It's a bit like your birthday party, right? It's like you worry and you stress about, the people who are going to come, and are they going to be comfortable, and But at the end of the day, what you always find when you look back, the people that are supposed to be there are the ones who show up, and the ones who are not don't. So then, after all, there's no point worrying, right? So your answers, I don't know how you're going to answer, I don't know what you're going to say, but I know that whatever comes out your mouth, there's someone here, who needs to hear that, right? And this is this positive dent that we're doing every Monday, right? Which I love. And so look, like so for you now, and we just move, we go with it, right?
Yeah.
So look, so now the title of your talk, right, is about passion, right? And what interests me as well, because we did have a chat before, and you're saying that you're doing some work around leadership and working with Adrian Morehouse and a few other guys. So how did all of that come together? And perhaps tell us, what is it you actually do?
So yeah, I purposefully, never talk about like, I'm a coach or I am that, because I believe, we are a person in the first place, a human being that is just trying to make sense of everything that is unfolding. And what we do is, a bunch of activities, a bunch of things that we do. So, I talk an awful lot, like, I'm just talking to you right now, like, and I usually do this in different formats, mostly in organizations, similar to you, doing workshops, culture change programs, team retreats, keynotes, one-to-one coaching, so leadership development in various forms across different industries, across different sectors, and I do it in different languages in different countries. So that's what I do, and I guess like where does my passion come in, or how did that started?
Yeah.
Like, I guess I came across the concept of an executive coach. I originally trained as a lawyer, so that was, for various reasons, I guess. I wanted to prove myself to myself and to the world. I had quite low self-esteem, I think, because I was dyslexic. I wasn't very good in school. There was a bit of overcompensation going on there. I realized that actually I'm not that passionate about it. Like, I'm passionate about doing the right thing or helping people, but like, editing terms and conditions all day or talking about products that I'm definitely not passionate about all day. It isn't where I can be at my best, and I'm not very good at being very precise and detail oriented and spending a lot of time on one file. So I'm not going to be able to do my best work in that, right? Like, so what I'm passionate about is I like to give presentations. I like to talk to people. I like to talk to people. I like to meet new people all the time. I like to connect with people. I like to learn from them. I like to continuously, learn about myself and see the incongruences, see where I'm wrong, I mean, I was just drawn to that career, or when I heard that, that thing like that exists, like executive coaching or leadership development, I was like, that's what I want to do, because it sort of combines these different things that I'm interested in. So there's psychology involved, there's business involved, there's it's international, and you constantly have to work on yourself, learn, grow, develop, to be of value to others, because otherwise, you're not going to be very credible, and you're not going to serve that many people, right? Like if you don't role model that, I just got into it didn't make any logical sense, because I had spent all these years, studying in law school, getting 2 degrees, and had a really good 6-figure sort of like job in financial services and stuff, and it didn't actually make sense for me to switch and go for that. But something had changed, and this is a bit of a longer story, but I guess like a lot of people have these sort of stories, like, life-changing moments, or people that you met, or realizations that you had, and long story short, I had that insight. I just have to do it, because you only live once, and you have to go after the thing that you really want to do, because you might not have that much time, and and it is, sort of bringing together all the things that I'm passionate about. I travel a lot for that. I get to meet people. I get to add value. I get to learn. I get to do so many different things all the time, and that's a real privilege, to do this kind of work and make a living and yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And look, so what I love, there's a few things I pick up upon. I love the fact that you're completely tapped into service to others, right? You're completely tapped into being of value to others, which is a different way of saying the same thing. And I love that, because I find, personally, that a lot of power in that, right? Being there to serve people, to guide people along the way, because we all get in positions that we feel confused, or we feel we're not clear on what we're going to do, and clarity is power, right? And so it can be really difficult when you're spiraling down and you're somewhere in the murky depths of your own mind, and it's like someone's throwing you like a life vest. You put it on and you begin to rise up, rise up to the surface of your mind and see things from a wider perspective. And that perspective, I think, is a powerful way to see it, is that we're here to serve others, right? With our unique gifts, skills, and abilities. And so the defining moments is what I love to hear. So you mentioned before that there's a moment for you where it was a case of like, I just have to do it. Like what was involved in that moment? Like what was going on for you at that time? And what created that opportunity, in the sense of you felt the urgency to do it then?
Yeah. I can't pinpoint to one moment, right? Like, so I think insight comes over time, right? Like because if it came at once, it would be overwhelming, right? Like you wouldn't be prepared for that, and you wouldn't know how to deal with that. So I think 2 things happened, right? So I quit my job working in financial services, traveled around the world, and that was already like, opened up a whole different world for me. And
why did you quit?
Well, basically quit. It was a different role that I was doing at the time, and I could have done a different role and stayed on, or find another job. So that specific role was ending, and it sort of came at an opportune time, because I had accumulated enough money to travel, and wasn't sure if this is the path for me. So it was sort of like, if you were looking for the answer, like, no, I'm not saying, but like, I guess I don't have this story of like I was, miserable, or I didn't hate it. No, I loved it. I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was interesting work, and it was cool. I have great people around me, great boss, great team. It was fun. Like I could have continued, but it was just roles and the times that changed, and there was an opportunity for me to do this at that time, so that was the reason. So traveling, and 2 things happened on that trip that I think were sort of shaping my path after that, and one was I was volunteering teaching English at an orphanage in Colombia, and that was a similar sort of coincidence that got us to this moment here where we're talking, where I just, met this guy. He was running this orphanage, amazing guy. Like, he was blind himself, had adopted 8 children himself, and created a home for 90.
Wow.
And he was like, we need an English teacher. Can you teach English? I was like, well, I can speak English. I never taught English, but I could do that. I started working there, and I would go early in the morning, leave late at night, and I would always come out of work with more energy.
Wow.
Than I went in with, right? Like, so that was an insight that at that time I hadn't realized how profound that was. Like that, you can do work if it's aligned to your values, and I guess that's what purpose is purposeful work is when you're aligned to your values and you feel resonance, right? Like, and then that kind of energy fills you up, right? Like, and yeah, I guess it was service, adding value, being around people that were truly grateful and hungry to learn, and that there was mutual inspiration going on there. I was learning a lot from the kids, and they were getting some benefit from working with me. That was clearly an insight, like, that I wanted to follow. I was like, this is how work can feel like, and I am not even getting paid to do this kind of work. So what if I found something that is similar? Now, I didn't see myself being a kindergarten teacher, because that's just not my sort of world. I like to work with adults, and I like the corporate world as well. I like business and stuff. So, I was like, how can I recreate this, and that was one insight. The other insight came through an experience that was mildly traumatic. I had these swollen lymph nodes on my neck. That could be anything, like something's wrong with your body, from mild to severe, right? Like, and I had it checked out in the Philippines. I was traveling at the time, and then later in Singapore. And this guy, private sparkling clinic, Harvard medical business, business card, so you trust the guy, right? Like, tells me what you have here, looking at your blood counts, and these were blood counts that were taken in the Philippines, is a CLL. So I'm like, CLL, what is that? Like, chronic lymphomatic leukemia. I'm like, leukemia? I know this word, like that's cancer. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, you have cancer, but you're most likely not going to die. So he was very unempathetic, and long story short, like, he flips over the page and he goes like, this is stage 1, like chemotherapy, like that's pills and injections, and then you're going through radiotherapy and all that, and you're just, in that moment, you're looking at your life, how it just will change dramatically. Because remember, I was just, a young professional going traveling, seeing the world, great, to that world being shattered, and sitting in the cab and just being like pretty depressed, right? Like, and pretty, shaken up. Like, long story short, that wasn't the case. I didn't have cancer, and I was perfectly fine. I had it checked out, and another doctor actually flew back home to Switzerland, had it checked out by another doctor, and they told me, you're fine, you're good. You can go back traveling. I had something mono, like, but asymptomatic, so so I didn't even have fever. But these two things, I would say, like, these are defining moments in that process, because I had never planned to leave my job and not go back and start my own business and all that. That's something that evolved after. That was something that became clear to me after. But these two things definitely shaped it. Like, one, having a felt experience of energy, like getting a lot of energy from a certain kind of work that I did, and the fragility of life, like, that it can be over any day, and that you got to go after the things. And,
the some things which I love about what you said is that, like, the first thing is that, this mosquito likes you here, which is really powerful, because, as you said before, right, a lot of people think, I've got to have, really hard story to, struggle, near-death experience, to be able to get this other thing. And a lot of people out there feel, that they're not worthy somehow of having this because they haven't had a story like someone else, And then for you to come out and say, well, what, I was doing just fine, thanks. There was no real urgency for me to leave. The universe was conspiring to give me this opportunity, but there was nothing pushing me necessarily. I think is great, because there's a whole bunch of people who are watching which were outside this conversation before. Now they're in. Now they've been brought into that conversation, this conversation, because they realize, well, actually, it's not like I have to be having some major thing that I'm facing to get involved in this conversation. That's the first thing, which I think is great. The second, which I love to kind of see, is like, just, I said in the intro, where the universe is like tapping you on the shoulder. The more I sit down with people, the more I see or feel that, that it starts off as a gentle tap, and it becomes a little bit more severe each time until you wake up and pay attention to this thing, whatever it is for you, it is. And I can, in a way, I can kind of hear that in your story of, like you start off as like gentle nudge, and then it was something like, hey, you've got this when you didn't, but then that probably in your brain broke something up, because often, and what I like to point out a lot in this is that for a lot of us, it's that theta brainwave state 0 to 7, we're in those years of, adopting what our major caregivers by mimicking what they do. That becomes eventually our, our winning formula, otherwise known as our, our unconscious bias, and then the RAS then speeds that up and pulls, sucks in all of that stuff, and we just become, like observing this linear way of looking at the world where we only believe a certain amount of things, and that's all we get. So I love it when I hear that, what things, push us or nudge us off of that unconditional or that unconscious bias and allow us to see something in a different way. And for some people it is an extreme thing. For others it might be a gentle nudge. So I just find that amazing in your story. So look, what also interests me and everyone listening is that, like what allowed you or focused you or defined you to become the person that you are today. So what I often find is kind of going back into someone's past. Like how did you grow up? Not necessarily saying it's good or bad or right or wrong. None of that, because it is what it is. But for you, so what was your childhood like? What was like an incredible experience that you remember, positive one in your childhood?
Incredible experience that I remember. There's loads.
Of course.
There's loads. One thing that comes to mind is, this is just the one that comes to mind. I always loved. Did you grow up in London? No. Yeah. Yeah. So on one of the many visits that I did with my mom to London, I always wanted to go and have breakfast where the bus drivers have breakfast in London. Just because it's so simple and so real, where you can see the big buses and just like it's the real deal, like you get like your full English breakfast and there's the atmosphere of people checking out. I guess I obviously didn't make sense of that then, but now I can see a lot of things, and this is just me thinking about it out loud right now, like why was that maybe resonating, or because you have a lot of camaraderie going on there, friendships, real lives connecting over a meal. That's just me interpreting. Like, that was a good moment. Like, what shaped me? That was I guess the question as well, right? Like,
sure.
Or shall I just number of things. Like it's usually people, right? Like values and I guess being. A big part is definitely like having had the privilege, and I think that's the biggest privilege that I had is growing up in a family that was mixed, like having access to that Indian culture, mom being Indian, heritage, but also like then raised in the UK and Muslim, and dad's was Christian, and all the learnings that come with that, that you pick up on different family values and see different sort of cultures very, 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 very close up, and you can relate to both, and you feel at home in both. And then, Switzerland was a pretty more white country at the time, and what shaped me was, I didn't notice it myself, but that I looked a bit different, that I had a slightly darker complexion, and that was called names for that. So that wasn't entirely positive, but I think in the long run, it was really positive because, and I think that's what a lot of people do when they sort of reflect on their stories, turning a positive into a negative, turning a negative into a positive, like that. was that was made. I felt different. I felt sort of separate, and that I think the positive over time, or what I learned from that, and just thinking out loud as I speak, is that it's to value stepping into your full authenticity and developing your full authenticity and just like being yourself, because you are different from everyone, but at the same time you have a lot in common with everyone, and finding these commonalities, being able to connect with different people, with people that are very to use left and right as a metaphor, but you could use black and white or whatever, to be able to connect with anyone, and being able to build rapport and have sort of understanding instead of judgment, but at the same time knowing that there's no one else like you, and then when you're forging your own path, and when you're traveling the road less traveled, and you're comparing yourself maybe along the way, which is often something that happens for everyone, that you remind yourself, like, well, you're never going to be where the other person is, and they're never going to be where you are, because you have your own sort of path. So yeah, that was a bit of a tangent. Like, didn't really answer your question.
Tangents are good. No, but you did. It's not always about the question. So when's your birthday? Which
26th of February.
So, gotcha. So now look, one thing which I love to see as well is, like, so you're in leadership development, right? And it's interesting because the question that pops in is that, looking from where you are now in your life, right? And then you look back at your past, like, do you see or not, like, in a way, like, why you grew up the way you did, right?
Why I grew up the way I did. Do I see it now more clearly?
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. So one of the biggest things for me in my life, which I recognized at the age of 12, but was scared of it, was that part of my mission in life, or what I accepted as being part of the mission, was to bring people together, different backgrounds, ideologies, ways of seeing the world, religiosity, names, money, no money, skin color, whatever it is, to bring us together, to celebrate our differences that make us unique, but also to bring us together around things that make us similar, that make us one, that make us, so that we have this unity, unity consciousness, right? To recognize that and to bring that and to foster and to nurture that, right? So here's the thing. When I look back on my life, I'd say, well, if that's my purpose, right? If that's what it is, what would be the best way that I could grow up? You got me? So then it was like, well, I grew up in 2 children's homes. 6 months to the age of 18, that's me. 7.5 years, 17 and a half years I grew up in children's homes. Who did I meet? All different walks of life. All different skin colors, religiosities, backgrounds, money, no money, criminals, gangsters, thugs, the whole gamut. And what did I recognize? What did I see? I saw me in everyone. So I saw the unity between all of us. But I also saw our differences. One guy, Lee Burke, this Jamaican guy, short, 5 foot something, trilby hat on an angle, walk with a cane, walk with a limp, even though I didn't have one, had this shuffle, this Jamaican shuffle, right? He was always about, Rob, stick up for yourself. You're a man, stick up for yourself. Don't let anyone dictate to you your life. You are in the driver's seat of your life, make it happen. He ended up getting shot in the head, right? So he didn't make it, right? But, what I saw in him, what I observed in him being an introvert at home was massive for me. I saw about, about looking after yourself and being your own man, being your own person. I saw that, right? So as I go through those types of experiences, I get to see that I can connect with anyone now, no matter what. It doesn't matter to me. I know I can connect with anyone. So in my role of bringing people together, creating spaces and holding space for people to see the wisdom and beauty that they all have, that we all have, right? I look at the way I grew up and I say that was the absolute, I don't use the word perfect too often, but that was the perfect training for me to be doing what I'm doing now. It's like someone's there going like, okay, let's wave our magic wand, or let's see, to get to this stage, what does this guy have to have gone through in his life? So from that perspective, doing what you're doing now, do you see any parallels or any connections in there?
Definitely, and I think like without understanding your question, the way you asked it in the first place, I think I makes me realize that I sort of answered and and thinking about it and relating it to your story, maybe not as crystal clear as in your story, but like there's definitely an element being exposed to loads of different cultures and always. The thing is like when you are made to feel different, or when people look at you differently, you'll connect with other people that feel similar, so you'll have rapport with that. And I think, a large part of my work, but my work I don't define as what is money generating. That's more sort of like what I'm here to do, and that is to connect, positively impact, and add value, like in simple terms, right? Like but you need to be able to connect first, right? Like to build that rapport from which you can then inspire or add value in whatever way, and that I was definitely able to learn through the environment and through the role models. My parents being, very different, having unique skills, my environment that I grew up in, and the people that I came across through that. I can connect the dots. I guess that's what you're referring to as well.
Yeah.
A little bit is like, looking at like how. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. It's probably not as crystal clear as in your example, and I'd be lying if I said like that made absolute sense. But I can see some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So for those who just joined us now, we're at Tropical Nomad. It's called SpeakuP Monday. Every Monday, giving you a break. Get some water. SpeakuP Monday, and every Monday we're up to number 64. Eric. Philip Hofstetter today. So we're looking at leadership and lots of other things. They're called passion and uncovering that in these uncertain times. So one other thing that drops in for me here is that when it comes to what you do, and as you mentioned before, you don't see it as work, you see it as what you're here to do, which I love. It's this this is what I'm born to do in a way. How do you, or can you, your leadership development. So I guess the question I'm asking is that in how you grew up, were there seeds that you saw or seeds that you felt? You've already said that that you grew up differently. You've already said that you had a Muslim and you had different aspects going on here. You already said that growing up, when you went back to Switzerland, that because you didn't look like everybody else, you were called names, so you went through a certain amount of, let's call it racism, for example. But in there, because leadership, is something very innate, I think, within all of us, right? And I think it's an incredible thing to recognize and to see and to nurture and to foster the leader within us, And I'm interested to know, where did that come from within you, right? Because to what you do now, where did that come from? If you know.
If I know. Yeah. Because the thing is, my initial sort of response would be, I don't know, because I feel leadership is what is leadership? I think is what we are doing, and how we are being. Very simply put, right? And therefore I think everyone is a leader, and can get to a congruent place where they where what they say, how they feel, what they speak, and how they align their life is congruent, and makes sense. And I'm like everyone else on that journey where you gradually step more and more into your power, and you gradually step more and more into your authenticity, and you're refining and getting more and more intentional with everything that you're doing. So I would say, how do I know, or how can I connect it? I can't completely connect. I can connect some dots, but I think I'm still in the process of connecting dots, because yes, it's been amazing. Like, what I've been able to do and how I'm able to live, and that I most days can live completely in line with my values, do stuff that I'm excited about with people that inspire me, and that, yeah, my work is, can be this, but it can also be, in a totally different context, but it's always, aligned to things that are meaningful. So that's a huge privilege. It's great. And I think it's a process of becoming even more intentional and even more impactful. Serve even more, whatever that means. So it doesn't really answer your questions. I'm not
but remember, this is not about answering questions. The question just guides, right? It's about letting what we have within us just to come out, and that's all we're having a conversation. Things are coming out. We don't know what it is. We don't need to know, but it's just coming out. So I asked you before one question. Here's the reverse question now, but whatever comes in your mind first. All right. So whatever comes in your mind first. Okay. What is one of the worst experiences of your life?
First thing would have been that falsely diagnosed with cancer thing, but it was probably just because it was in my mind. Another one was clearly experience. It wasn't like one pinpoint experience, but like it was a phase of life. Like that was when so how I told you the story that I traveled, started my business, wanted to go for it, and I didn't talk about that much, but like I guess had an insight at some point that I have to go for it, and I need to do this, and it was mainly following resonance. It was mainly following that I got such a good feeling of coaching people, adding value to people, that I was like, oh, that's what I need to do. I need to give it a shot because I'm not awful at it, and I'm actually quite good at it, and this could work. This could work. Could also not work. And one of the worst things that happened is that it didn't work out. I didn't succeed, so to speak. Like, after 2 years, I was still not making enough money. Like I still didn't have the kind of clients that I wanted. I had a relationship at the time that broke down. That was devastating for me. Like, I had invested so much in that, and it wasn't working. And in sort of like the worst case scenario came true. Like the thing that I thought that mustn't happen. Like you can't go all in and leave that safe haven, high paid job or career behind you. Try this new thing, and then it doesn't work out. That was sort of my biggest fear. So that was definitely one of the worst phases, because I felt like a loser. Like I felt very lonely. I felt very sort of, I didn't feel like I was doing much. I've always felt very self-conscious when I was talking to people about what I do. Like, so people would ask you, so what do you do, Phil? And sort of like, trying to do this coaching business, leadership development stuff. Okay, yeah. How many clients do you? How much money do you make? That's still in progress. Like, sort of giving these avoiding questions. So you used to be a lawyer. Yeah. You don't do that anymore. No. Yeah. So okay. So who are you? You're like, because, and that's sort of like what I said at the beginning. Like that's where all of that stuff came. That I was attaching a lot of value to what I was doing, and I based a lot of my confidence on sort of my achievements before that hit me in the face at the time, because I was like, oh, who are you, right? Like, who are you if you're not doing anything that generates money, like in this world? So that was a bit of a low point. And in hindsight, I have to say, like, it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because what I realized, and I think that's what a lot of people fear, is that place of, what if it doesn't work out? What if I'm there and the idea that I had won't work? And why was it so valuable for me to experience that? Is because, well, it was painful. It wasn't pleasant. I didn't feel great. No, I felt shit most days. Like, pardon my French. But I realized that I don't need anything outside of me to base my confidence on, right? Like, so I don't need a title, a degree, or a business or an income level to be confident in myself. And who I am is, I'm just, as I said, like a human being that is trying to make sense of everything. And I have the innate ability to connect with people. I can come and talk to you and make you smile, and that's what I can do. And that has nothing to do with, my past, my accomplishments, or my net worth, And I started to develop a really deep-seated confidence that, I am me, and that's pretty awesome. Like, that's pretty good as such, I don't need anything else. And everything else that comes in addition to that is a bonus. And every accomplishment that comes on top of that, that's a bonus. But like, you're already good, and you're resourceful, and you're confident, and you can make stuff happen, And I only got in touch with that because I experienced this really low point, because I was like, I was confronted with nothing. And that's what I would say to people is like, that fear that we have of losing everything and being at this low point, that fear, if you sort of start to dig into it and experience it, there's usually nothing there. It vanishes into nothing. You're fine. You're fine. And you'll discover actually deeper strength. And that's what I would call, I often talk to clients about this, is what I call core confidence, right? Like, that's sort of, the relationship you have with yourself, how much you love yourself, how much you accept the aspects of your own personality that you haven't developed to the degree that you would like to, how forgiving are you with yourself, how you talk to yourself. And that core confidence only really develops if all of the other bullshit is stripped away, because the other layers, I would say, like, there's sort of lifestyle confidence, where do you live, what house do you have, what friends do you have, what social clubs do you hang out, and then the societal confidence is like, what is your position in society, like how much money do you make, and a lot of people crutch their confidence on these outer layers, without really ever needing to look at the core confidence, and actually when you're forced to do, it's a huge asset, because no one can take that away from you, once you have it.
Love that. Love that. And so many questions popped in. I can only ask a few. So someone looking now, right? They're in that place where you said, like at the time, you thought were the worst things that could possibly happen are happening to you, right? And they're spiraling down. So what things can they do to turn that moment around in a similar way that you have, right? What you're saying is that outer confidence, that lifestyle confidence. You gave one example, is about what you do for a living, how much you earn, like what are you tied into, which determines your self-worth. And what you're saying is that that's got nothing to do with it. If you can attach to your core, right, self-worth, that's a much more powerful place to stand, because then you cannot be moved from that. No amount of money, no money. No amount of relationship, no relationship. No amount of lifestyle trappings, no trappings, is going to change how you treat yourself, right? So is there any guidance that you can give for people who are in that position?
I think it's highly relevant for people right now, right? Like, because a lot of people are going through a huge disruption with what is happening in the world currently, right? Like, and where you attached a lot of your confidence or your identity to a certain activity or a certain business or whatever, and not just now, but like all the time. So if there was a recipe for it, everyone would do it. And I think that's why, like, guidance, I can just say what worked for me, or what works for me still, because I think it's a process that you got to maintain, because now, I'm doing well with my business, like, so I took off after that, like, through lots of coincidences, like, worked with loads of big companies and stuff, and like, did exciting things, and now I could fall into the trap again of attaching that value to my confidence, and basing my confidence on these
success.
these external accomplishments, and actually that's very fragile, right? Like, because that can vanish again, and a lot of it is currently kind of dormant, with the current situation, and there's not that much activity. So if my confidence was based be a fragile place to operate from. So yeah, guidance, or what works for me, or what I do to maintain it, is well, just maintaining a pace that you can keep up with, slowing down essentially, and that is just grounding yourself on a day-to-day basis, similar to what you mentioned into the introductory, what you do before you deliver a workshop, just get out of your own way, thinking of letting your essence guide you, sort of to as to what you're serving here, and let that resonance guide you rather than your thinking, right? So by slowing down, you'll realize that actually there's not that big of a difference between me now, say, like if I was to say like me now successful and me then not successful. Not a big difference, it was still me getting up every morning and doing a bunch of things, and then sleeping and getting up again the next day and doing a bunch of things, right? And if we slow down and we pay attention to what we're doing, how we're engaging with ourselves, how we're talking to ourselves, how we're talking to ourselves about others, and how we're engaging with others, and the impact that we're having on these people, well, then it's all about your intention and your awareness in how you do that. So this is not a recipe, but it's sort of like, guidance here. You ask for guidance or things that I think one must do is slow down, keep in check, listen to your resonance. Like, even if great opportunities come up, if you're successful, for example, and you get all these offers from different corners, and you could do all these exciting things, check in with yourself. Like, what feels purposeful? What feels like where you're going to be doing your best work, and only do those. And vice versa, when everything is shaken up and you're in this place of uncertainty, feed yourself thoughts that add value to you. Be kind to yourself. Do things that nurture your body, like do sports. Use that time if you have time. Feed your mind good thoughts. Feed your body good food, like simple things. And I guess, but that's something you got to maintain in high flying times and in
low flying times.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, meditate. Sports. Like it's very, I guess very 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 sort of. I think it's having a routine, having habits, routines. Like what a lot of people notice, obviously, right? Like so, this is just a reminder, right? Like I don't think anything that I could add to that list is revolutionary or something that someone has never heard before. But I think it's really these things, like that. If you do these in these times, you get in touch with yourself, and you realize actually, I've got everything that I need. But that insight, as I said, it's a process that happens within yourself, right? Like, and once you know, right? Like once you know, you know what? If this confidence thing, this sort of like deep-rooted confidence, and I see it in other people that have it, and I know they all have a similar story where they sort of hit rock bottom or something similar, like just had a unpleasant experience with that, and that built that confidence. This is usually the case. So this is about. So the recipe is probably to face your fears, failing, and dealing with that, and realizing how resourceful you are.
Yeah. And then, so you mentioned before, that you're at that stage where, your business wasn't working out, right? You weren't being successful. You're being questioned, like I was in Italy. The second question: how much money did you make? I love Italy, by the way. I love Italy. I love Italy. Learned to speak Italian. It's like my first home. Even though I was born in London, but it made me laugh because like the second question was, the first question was like, "Di dove sei? Where are you from?" Second question, "Quanti guadagni?" Like how much money did you make? I'm like, come on, man. So I get that Western world, view of like success is how much money you make and what you do. Now, but what allowed you to go from that time where your business was not successful, you didn't give up, you kept on going. So what would you say were the reasons why you're able to become successful in that business?
To not give up, not sell out, not listen to what other people say, you know. Because there was a lot of people that told me, you know, you can't do that. Like, you know, I was 26 when I started my business. I said, like, I want to work with CEOs. I want to, you know, work with large organizations. And they're like, you know, you're a lawyer, you're a kid. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, so there was a lot of people, you know, very well intended, that said, like, you know, that ain't gonna work. And especially at the time when, you know, I had tried for two good years and didn't have the success that I had hoped to have. So yeah, associate yourself, like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? Like, you know, like, so modeling them, right? Like, being around these people, you know, seeking them out, like, and, you know, there's experts everywhere, like, you know, Google them, link in with them, you know, reach out to them, and then you can see, like, you know, you sit with them, you have a chat with them, and you kind of see, like, well, they're just a human being like I am, right? Like, they're not special, and they're doing it, so it is possible. So that thing, like, you know, spending time with people in their presence, being very selective to what information you consume or what you listen to, you know, like, there's a lot of people that will project their fear onto you and telling you why it can't be done. So keep grinding, you know, like, knocking on a lot of doors. I got a lot more rejection and a lot more no's than a lot of people probably, like, but that also means that I've gotten a couple of opportunities to do things that you know, some people haven't, right? Like, so I guess that's how it works, you know, like, because a lot of doors will slam into your face, and they'll be like, no, thank you very much, we don't want your services, you know, go and give your talk.
Oh,
you
man,
know, like,
thanks for coming.
and that's fine, like, you know, and that's okay. That's not personal, because it can only be personal if they've known you for years and then be like, you know, no, actually, no thanks. Yeah, but until we reach that point, it's basically just feedback. It's just feedback. You need to get better and hustle, and yeah, just keep the dream alive. Know why you're doing it, like, know why you want to do it, and don't sell out. Yeah, I think that's, and then one door opened, you know, and then stuff started happening, and from there, you know, it was unpredictable. Like, I met that person through that person, and then this led to this, and, you know, and it all sort of took a life of its own, right? Like I'm sure, like, similar to your story.
Yeah, and like, you know, like, giving you a bit of a break from talking, you know, like, again, you know, I love this stuff because, you know, there's so much in this, you know, and as you said before, it's not necessarily revolutionary, right? And if we keep on hearing it again and again and again and again and again and again, because we learn, right, it goes from our conscious mind to our subconscious mind that runs 95% of the show via repetition. Repetition, repetition, repetition. So you keep hearing a message, and eventually, maybe you're watching this now thinking, well, I've heard this stuff before, Rob. I've heard this stuff before. There's nothing different here. Yeah, but, like, you know, but with repetition, eventually what happens is you say, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try that. I'm going to taste that. I'm going to suck it and see. And you suck it and see, and you get results, you get value, and something changes. And then it's like, it's no longer a theory, it's knowing. To when you can sit there and say, you know what, I don't know what works for other people, but this is what works for me. You know, it works for me to slow down. It works for me to feed myself good stimuli, right? Good food, good people, good music, good inferences coming in, right? To be kind to myself, right? And that thing to slow down, again, that's the second time, slow down, it's the third time, slow down, right? Tap into my own unique area of genius, of talent, of understanding, right? Because we've all got this. And as you said, you know, I sit across the table from someone else, and by the way, he's worked with some incredibly successful guys and companies as well, but, like, it's sitting across the table saying, you know what, you're actually no different from me. You know, yes, the results you are getting are different to me, but we are no different. So if you can do it, then I can do it too. And that moment when that hits, something changes. And what I love about what you're saying is that it's very difficult to unknow what you know, right? It's like this insight I felt, tasted, and touched on my own body, right? It's not like I can go tomorrow and say, well, that didn't happen, right? Because I felt it's visceral, right? I feel it on my body, in my bones. It's like I'm not going to ever forget this unless something happens to my brain. And so it's really powerful. The things that you're saying, which resonate definitely with me. And again, I love hearing it. So reaching out to you guys. If you've got any questions, by the way, now's the time. Feel free to write those questions in. Facebook Live will be easier for us to read. Right, write those questions in. If you haven't got any questions, that's great as well. But if you have, feel free to write a question. By the way, if you're thinking, like that's a silly question, there are no silly questions here, right? No silly questions. All we have, right, is what's in our mind. And what happens is a lot of the time is that, any question that you have in your mind, someone else also has as well. So don't feel as though, that there has to be a great question, because it doesn't. Okay, I'm going to put that one there because Instagram is finishing. There we go. All right. So next question. Okay. So right now you're up to some incredible things. So share with us some of the things that you're doing and why you're doing them.
Yeah. So I guess you asked me to share a catchy and sort of engaging title for this talk. So living with passion and purpose in times of uncertainty. As I said, I came to Bali for initially 4 days, after an awesome time in Myanmar, and I was just going to be here for a couple of days before I traveled on to another assignment with a client, and that didn't happen, because of the virus, and then after that, another assignment got cancelled, and a lot of my face-to-face office interventions were cancelled because traveling and spending time in the same room and shaking hands and spitting into each other's faces is not that en vogue in this current sort of situation. It's uncertain. It's uncertain, right? So how do you remain sort of passionate and purposeful, right? So you need to find other things, and I think what I'm passionate about, I mentioned a couple of times, is road biking, cycling. And what gives me a sense of purpose is if I can add value and make it useful for other people. So this idea came about when I volunteered at SOS. Can we share a link maybe? After?
Yeah, we can.
At SOS and I met their chef Nick and the whole team there that are doing incredible work. So what they had is a supply chain that they've built up. I met Bo as well, the founder of the organization, and he came up with this idea, there's a lot of surplus food, right? Like at restaurants, hotels, and resorts, like buffets, once the guests have left and went to the beach, you can't use that food anymore. So they built a supply chain to package it all up into bunkos and distribute it around the island to people that are, food insecure, right? Now that supply chain broke down because tourism pretty much vanished overnight, right? So now with no excess food being around, they came up with this initiative of cooking food, right? So they got some donations and they're buying food and making them into healthy, nutritious meals. So whilst volunteering there, just making these packages of food, the idea came about. I'm cycling. I've done about 4,000 kilometers since I got here.
4,000 kilometers in 4 months.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. It's probably a bit less than that, but but around 4,000. So cycled around the island a couple times in total, but always on shorter rides. Short rides is an 8-hour, 9-hour ride on a day. And the idea came I heard people do this, fundraiser thing. I never really understood what it's about, but I knew it existed as a concept, and I was like, why don't we do this? So what I'm doing now is, so me and my friend Kadek, by the way, was the fastest cyclist in Bali, champion in Bali, won 4 gold medals, so pro,
wow.
And was number 13 in Indonesia. Great guy, really humble. When you see him, I'll show you the content and all that. So we're going to cycle around the whole island. So that's 400 kilometers in over 2 days. And we will also document the whole thing and have some drop-off points where we deliver some of the food that asks us and raise money and awareness for this problem, right? Like, because food insecurity is in this current pandemic is a big issue, right? Like, and it's what a lot of people don't know what the source of it is often like people that were the main breadwinner outside of a family that were working abroad. Let's say a person from Bali would work in, say, Qatar, Dubai, Hong Kong, and would send money home, had to leave the country and go to their own country, has no job, no way of generating revenue. They're now here, and all the people that depend on them. So they're very quickly running out of resources. So it's a real issue. People are hungry, and whilst I'm here, like, I always thought this, like, I've had significant impact, and like, lost a lot of my revenue, but I'm still good comparatively, and what can I do? So that's what I'm always thinking. Like, so I have all this time, like, I love cycling. I could do something useful. So this doesn't feel like it's work. Obviously, it feels like I'm passionate about this, and it's purposeful. So living with passion and purpose, and through that, you meet interesting people that feeds your inspiration, and it leads to all kinds of other great things. So that's that. So it's called Cycle for Recycle. Cycle for Recycle.
Cycle for Recycle.
Cycle for Recycle. Food raising initiative. That's really bad that I can't even remember exactly. But we'll post the link.
No, we'll post the link. It's all good.
So because the reason why it's also it has recycling in the food raising campaign is that there's a collaboration going on with Plastic Bank. Have you heard of Plastic Bank? By Plastic Bags.
Yeah. She's in a group because she commented in a group. I realize now why. The founders, the two girls.
Went to their place.
They're great. Incredible.
So so they have a collaboration with SOS, right? Like where people, so Plastic Bank, right? Like maybe just briefly, right? Like, so from what I understand, like my limited understanding of it, is that it incentivizes people that don't have a regular job to collect plastic because there's too much plastic everywhere, to then collect that plastic, bring to one of these stations. I think they have 9 stations around the island, and weigh it and get coins in return, which is in my understanding a blockchain technology that can then be changed converted into Gojek credit, which is similar to Uber Eats, right? Like, and money as well. But they can also get that food that SOS produces. So it's this perfect circular thing, right?
Circular economy.
So so you're cleaning the island. You're giving people a means to generate income and get food. So that's why, like, it does multiple things. This whole campaign.
Love it.
Raise awareness for these 2 organizations, and feed people. So so it's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting.
Well, one of the things we love, if you don't know, we're filming this from Bali, and that's where we are now. Tropical Nomad in Bali. Tropical Nomad Bali. Incredible co-working space, and so much more. I love it here. Itchy and Bella, thank you so much for hosting us every week. And but Bali is an amazing place. And how do I describe Bali? It's a deeply spiritual place. Is one aspect to it. Another aspect to it is that you can come here and have a great time, right? Party and stuff like that. I'm more connected with the former as opposed to the latter now, but it's an amazing place. And I find if you come in with good intentions, good actions, good motivations, with the spirit of service, that things here get magnetized and get expanded and scaled in a way that I've never seen anywhere before in the world where I've lived. I've lived in a few places. And that's what I love about this. So when I hear, like, I know the guys from SOS and Bye Plastic Bags, I met them, incredible people, and again, part of this SpeakuP Monday is about that. It's about people inspiring people, recognizing that that's who we are for one another, that's who we are for each other, And I love seeing it again and again and again, and this time, is like a pressure cooker, right? It's like, what is it, if you put coal, is it, under great pressure, diamond is formed over time. It's a bit like that, like times like this, and I'm very sorry, and it upsets me to see people suffering, losing businesses over this, right? It really does. But in this time, it's this conversion. It's this word alchemy, right? Where literally you're being crushed and forced under pressure, but it can create diamond. And hearing stories like this, it's creating diamonds. All over the place. People collaborating. To me, the most important phrase right now is intentional collaboration. Right? I think it's incredibly important because with that we're capable of so much, and I think we're getting that now as a race, as a species, not only just here in Bali but around the world. That if we're able to collaborate, meaningfully, in that way, the outcome is always greater than the sum of its parts. Right? The outcome is huge. And it can impact the whole world positively, right? So it starts like that. Okay, now I keep going. Now let's have a look, see if we have any questions, and give you a break. All right.
Yeah, maybe a question.
All right. Do you have any questions? So, any idea when it is possible again to come to Bali? That's Isa. We won't do that one quite now. My question: to love to go through you soon. Okay. Next time we're going to get itchy to read these. I can't see it. I can't see the question, did you? Okay, so any book you suggest about living with passion and purpose? Any book you suggest about living with passion and purpose? Any book that you can recommend?
Well, do you have one that comes to it? Like, I want to ask you some questions.
Sure, all right. What time? 10 past 8. Let's do this. All right. Ask me a question. Yeah.
That one. Because...
Yeah.
Your book?
Yeah, I mean, look, gosh, this sounds like such a setup. It's not a setup, but it just so happens I have this book. So this is my book, Soul Survivor, How an Abandoned Child Goes From Nothing to Everything. It's not a setup, it's just that I was doing, I got a course called Turn Your Story Into a Book. Turn Your Story Into a Book, it's a group on Facebook, and I'm teaching how to do that, and I was shooting this before this, so that's why the book is here. But look, that book is great because, really, it's an autobiography, but it really does go into, recognizing the things that we're talking about here today, the things I finished up with, which is about intentional, meaningful collaboration. And what I learned, in my life is that, from the age of 12, I wanted to be Secretary General of the UN. I found out later on that in my family tree are people like Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. They're all Jamaican Maroons, right? Now, all these people were people that shifted, that moved a lot of people, but they did it because they were supported. They were the spokesperson, they were the figurehead, but they were supported. And with me, the thing which I live by is understanding that it's not where I start, where you start in life, it's where you're going that's important. And recognizing who you are along the way. And who I am along the way is a person who's able to bring other people together, to collaborate, right, meaningfully around things that matter. And so like for me, again, the book which I got, that Soul Survivor, How an Abandoned Child Went From Nothing to Everything, published by New Holland. And that's a great book because, there are principles that go through that. And one of those principles is about understanding, because I grew up, thinking that I am alone. I was born alone, I'm going to be in the world alone, I'm going to die alone. They were the three most important characteristics I lived my life by. And that book, because I thought I was unloved, right? So that book is also a journey from unloved to loved, right? Unloved to loved. So what it was is that, I thought that I was alone because I didn't love myself, right? I didn't acknowledge who I was. For all the good and bad and the positive, negatives, all the rest of that, I didn't acknowledge who I was. And I was trying to externalize it for lots of periods of my life. When I was able to just encompass and embrace all of that and realize that this is all me. The good things that I love, the things that I don't love, it's all me. And if I'm able to love all of them, no matter what they are, whatever they look like, then I'm able to love other people. Because I am reflected in everyone that I meet. I am you, you are me, right? On a certain level. And once I began to realize that, then I started to embrace things I was not embracing before, including challenges that are uncomfortable still for me now to face. I'm in the habit of embracing now because I realize that there's freedom in that. What feels like in the beginning as like a hard thing that I don't want to face and don't want to deal with and all the rest of that, and I still have those feelings about it sometimes, but I have the insight now to realize that if I embrace those things, on the other side is gold, is diamond, right? It really, really is. And that book is a way for you to get from one place to another place through looking at someone else. It happens to be me in this case, but you will see yourself in me, right? Not because I'm you, I am you, but because, you know, you'll see something in there that will resonate. And it might be, you know, growing up in an orphanage and having all of these mentors growing up. Some teach you ways to end up getting shot in the head. Others teaching you ways. A guy I grew up with, Gary Lee, black guy, one of the first black head chefs of a major hotel in London. Incredible. Another guy, Ivan Loftman, you know, one of the fastest sprinters in the country. He was beating someone who was beating someone else called Linford Christie. Linford Christie, who turned out to be the world champion, right? So like, some people which I grew up with were amazing, and they had such a passion and drive and motivation to achieve and to not leave anything off the table. I had some of these guys as role models. They didn't say, hey, I'm your role model, but I was introverted at home, so I got to see that. And I was able to turn that around to play basketball for my country and play elite sport. I was able to turn that around and, you know, work with Madonna. I was able to turn that around and work with Naomi Campbell and all these supermodels that I was, you know, at the time I thought were the best thing in the world. And then I realized that all of those guys, and I put all these things onto them, right? That these guys are better than me because, these guys are better than me because of this, because of that, because of this, because of that. And I realized that we're all the same. Because I saw their frailties, inadequacies, their limiting beliefs. I saw all of it. I got to coach some of them, right? And I saw all the limiting beliefs, and I thought, fuck, you know, like, this is me. You know, and I realized that as human beings, we all want those things. We want to be loved, acknowledged, cherished, seen for who we are. And if we can do that, then we become superhuman in a way, because we're able to see that we're all the same, but we're able to see what makes us unique, but really we're all the same. And when we realize that, then we stop, as you said, externalizing, saying, well, you know, if I can earn this amount of money a year, I'll be content with myself. Tried that, didn't work. If I could work with Naomi Campbell and all these supermodels, because I didn't believe I didn't like the way I looked. So if I could do that, that would give me, you know, the validation. Thank you. The validation that I am worth it. It didn't. It was the worst thing I ever did. No, I lie. I'm not lying, but I'm lying, right? It wasn't the worst thing I ever did, because it taught me in those moments, in those periods of time. Got some questions? Great. Those moments, and in those periods of time, I realized, you know what? That like trying to find validation in an experience called the work that you do doesn't give you the validation that you're looking for. It's somewhere else. And that somewhere else is within me, not outside of me. When I got that, then my life changed and turned around. Itchy, got some questions?
Okay, yep. I got a question from Ida.
Question from Ida?
Yep. Any idea of working as a volunteer in Bali and also running our own business? Would love to know more about volunteering and fundraising opportunity.
We could, I mean, we will be happy to post a link. I know for a fact that Nick and his team at the community kitchen of SOS, they're always looking for volunteers. So, and that's very straightforward. You know, you can go there almost any day of the week, and yeah, your help will be greatly appreciated. Running fundraiser, like, you know, I had the idea doing one right now. That's how simple it is, how easy it is. So if you have an idea, you identify a cause, you connect with people, you talk to people, you'll make it happen. And it is easier than you think. Yeah, you know, we'll probably have my contact somewhere in this whole thing. So
absolutely.
Reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to chat as well, and provide whatever knowledge I have on the subject, which is very limited.
Oh, you're good. So thank you for answering that. Another question is, what is your key to building a strong trust among an intercultural and international team? So once more, what is your key to building, a strong trust among an intercultural or a cross-cultural or multicultural and international team?
Very good question. Do you want to take that one, or?
No, it's you, brother. It's you.
It's mine.
It's you.
Well. I think trust is something that you build over time, that you build over informal conversations, over spending time with people. You start to see how people are really like by their actions and not by what they say. And how do you build that trust? Well, yeah, it's just over working with the same people over an extended period of time. I mean, it's highly relevant to me because I work with an international network of associates and business partners, and with a lot of them, I don't have any written contracts. So we do quite big projects with each other, and it's all built on trust. How do you build it? How do you build it is by, I guess, being integer, being authentic, being honest, speaking up when things don't work for you, having these honest and frank and uncomfortable conversations with people when you need to. A lot of it is built over time, and it's paying attention to the little things that are incongruent. So I also parted ways with a lot of people that would have been highly lucrative collaborations, but that didn't feel right. So that also happened, and that's just because people didn't walk the talk. And how does it takes time to build it, and it takes awareness and noticing when something doesn't feel right. How do people start to trust you is by you trusting them, and by you being transparent and going beyond what you need to, especially at the beginning of a relationship, by being very transparent, when you're communicating with clients or people that you're jointly engaging with, like making that all transparent, CCing them, not withholding, sharing. I think how do you build trust? Like, by service, by like also in regards to the other question, like, passion, purpose, like, well, you got to do things that you're passionate about, like, and these are activities, things, people that you engage with, and then purpose is always about asking the question every single day, like, how can I add value to someone else? Or you pitch up at a place, so how can I make the day slightly better for these people around here, like, and what can I do, yeah, that would be my thought. Yeah. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think I love the response, and it gives everything I feel is what I would say. Yep. You're copying, no. So now look, if we've got any more questions, I'm gonna have a look. I think we're good. Thanks for the Rumi quote. Thank you. I love that. Rumi is amazing. So what we'll do? So we're going to come to an end shortly. Now, I'm going to give you some time to think about any last minute words or anything you'd like to say that comes up for you to kind of summarize it, and I'll give you some time. So I'll do this bit and give you time. I'll give you time to think. Right?
Come up with something.
Come up with something smart. Lord help us. No, we're joking. So look, guys, as you know, every Monday we do this here at SpeakuP Monday. So we'd love you to share this if you're getting value, if there's something that's resonating with you. Remember as well, like, if you're feeling like that pull, that tug from the universe of like, you know what, I think I would love to do a SpeakuP Monday. And we can do this remotely. I'd love to do it like this, it's great. But we now, through Tropical Nomad, Itchy and Bella, doing amazing stuff with us. It's great. Thank you so much, Tropical Nomad Bali. Yes. So what we can do is we can do this via Zoom. So if you're somewhere else, like in Germany, like you, Isa, or somewhere else in London or in New York or somewhere else, then we can do this as a Zoom, and then we bring it into Facebook Live and stream it to YouTube, and we can stream it other places, Instagram as well, probably eventually. So we can do that as well, right? So distance doesn't have to be an excuse. So you're feeling it, hit me up. Just send me a message, and I'll absolutely respond to you. And we'd love to have you, because remember, if you're getting that tap, it's for a reason, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is that, as I mentioned before, please feel free to share this with other people if you think they might need to hear it, or you think you're just being driven or drawn or compelled to share it. Share it. Give in. Surrender to that feeling, right? Because it's there, right? That's it. The third thing that I want to say, which isn't really the third thing, it's kind of the first thing, but hey, that's how we roll here. I just want to thank you, my brother, right, for like taking up the call, right? It was a week ago, like I said, that I asked him. He was like, oh, what is it? I go, don't worry about it, just come and do it. And you said yes. So I really appreciate it. I love the fact that you've been open, honest, authentic, congruent with who you are. And that's all we can ever ask, right? That you're just who you are. And, like some great takeaways there of slowing stuff down, of just being you, of loving yourself, taking that time to put all those things in place, right? To realize that life is a process, right? and we're living in that process. It doesn't mean we have to have the definitive answer. It just means that we're on our journey, right? And how to tap in and tap out of that flow of life, if you want to call it that. And just, just that whole overarching thing of just, going with what feels right for you, as you mentioned just recently, of you had a lot of opportunities there, higher earning opportunities, but it didn't feel right. There wasn't authenticity in the other person. One of the things which I love a great deal is this thing about, getting to know you and being congruent with who you are, and, just accepting that, that you are enough, basically, that I am enough, and making that leap, from externalizing of the answers and the things, and my self-identity is linked to, supported by, resting on what I do for a living, or the lifestyle situation that I have right now. I think probably one of the most powerful takeaways for me is a reminder of that it's not, that it doesn't have to be like that, that if you're connected to the core person of who you are, in this time of uncertainty, you can find your passion, you can find your drive, right? All of these things that come into it, you can be that because you're not, as I was, I had a car that I loved called a BMW X5M, and like, man, this was one of the biggest lessons for me personally, ended up getting taken away, but anyway, it's another story. But my self-identity was completely reliant upon that thing, because I grew up in London, and how I grew up was that if you have a BMW, then it shows that you've made it. So my self-esteem was tied up in that car, and I learned a tough lesson, bitter pill to swallow, that it ain't like that. That ain't the best way. Oh Lord, help me. And so I learned that, right? And you know what? Now I don't fall into that anymore, because I learned it on my skin. Okay, so there's some very powerful takeaways for me, and I'm so happy to have had this conversation and this chance to interact and get to know you a little bit more. And look, so now next week we have Mark Seaton. It will be next week. Mark, if you're watching this, can't wait to see you next week. Another amazing, beautiful human being, much like you, Philip. And we're going to have me here at Tropical Nomad next week at 7 o'clock. If you feel like coming here live and seeing it live, you're so welcome, right? Just come down 6:45, or even 7 o'clock, grab a beautiful coffee, hang out here and just watch us do this live, all right? Okay, that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over now to Philip to give us some closing words. Thank you so much for being here. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Philip, over to you, brother.
All right. Thank you very much, Robert, for having me. And I guess, you summed it up beautifully. Like, I think passion, purpose, I guess these are things that are in the title. And, well, it's just like what got this conversation happening was paying attention, slowing down, and following resonance. That's how we got talking. That's how you invited me, and that's how we created this, right? Like, and I guess everything is quite simple in life when we slow down, right? Like, even if there's a lot of complexity and a lot of things are up in the air, we slow down and we pay attention to resonance, and that is sort of like going with what we're passionate about, and we're looking how we can make that into something that serves, that helps, where I can contribute beyond myself, then it's purposeful. So purpose is not like one of these things that you once found and then you're enlightened and then you're living a purposeful life. No, it's a rebalancing act that we have to engage with, that I have to engage with on a day-to-day basis, right? Like that you misalign with and then align with again, like by paying attention to what feeds you, what drains you, what serves you, what doesn't serve you. I think it very much like the things that you said. Just slow down, pay attention, and count your blessings. Appreciate everything, expect absolutely nothing, and everything flows. So I guess that will be my closing words. And thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys, for having me here. It was fun. And thanks for everyone that took an interest and stayed and watched.
Thank you, brother.
Cool experience. Thank you very much.
Welcome, brother.
Cheers.
Welcome, man. Thank you very much, you guys. See you next time. See you next week. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.